So we'll call our December 1st meeting of the BPAC to order. And Joni, I assume you have roll, or you've taken roll. You've been making notes of which members are present.
Yes, I'm writing it down right now.
Awesome. Then we'll let Craig do his public involvement announcement. You know, this is the highlight of the agenda for me.
Well, that's sad. I don't know if we have anyone on Teams Live yet. Or if we will, but that's how we're doing our public portion of the program, because this link, this invite here that all the committee members and the consultants and DOT, et cetera, have dialed into is just for committee members and staff, et cetera. So, but the public involvement announcement, of course, is that all of the AMATS meetings are open to the public, and the public will be invited to comment. If I remember correctly, we do have space on the agenda down at the end of the agenda for public comments, if there are any on. Christine Schutte, who just started about a month ago working for us. She's our new public involvement coordinator, and she tells me that we have one person on the public dial-up. I do see, I think Lindsay just had a statement in the chat. Are you, Lindsay, are you asking? Okay, so I'll just go real quickly over the list of committee members that I see on the list here. We have Steve Shell, who's with Bike Anchorage. Let's see, Lindsay, that would be you, and I don't remember what entity you're with. We have Carol Fink, who's with the state health department. I probably don't have that exactly right, but that's the general entity. Eric Gurley represents our disability services organization. That's his seat. Daryl Hess is here as a public member, I believe. And I just admitted Matt Johnson, who's also a public member. Today also we have Mr. C.B. Brady, who is a nominee to be on the committee, and that will be going to our his nomination will be going to our technical advisory committee on Thursday, and then the policy committee in 2 weeks, which I'm sure will be going through with flying colors. We'll get that appointed, and we'll have a full committee again, and he will be a public seat for that. So there you go.
That is awesome. Thanks.
Yes. And Lindsay, Lindsay clarified that she is a social services seat. She's now with NeighborWorks Alaska. So there you go.
I used to be on their board. So, before I entertain a motion to approve the agenda, I would like to add an item D, which would be a discussion of the Tudor Lake Otis. You know, there was an article in the newspaper, and I know Lindsay has sent an email regarding this. Just a discussion of how the BPAC might be involved in making some recommendations, are looking at the issues with pedestrian and vehicle incidents in that area. If there's no objection from any of my fellow committee members, I would like to add that item. So with that,
no objection here. Daryl, I have one other thing to possibly add. I don't know if this is an agenda item, but I will be stepping down from Bike Anchorage at the end of the year, so I will no longer be able to fill the seat for Bike Anchorage.
yeah.
But that said, if there is a public seat available, I would be interested in staying on the committee in a different role.
So I don't think that needs to be an agenda item.
Yeah.
When we get to committee comments, we could discuss that. And you know, I would say you would always be welcome as a member of the public to participate if there isn't a public seat open at that time. And then when a public seat open, apply. But we don't want you to go away.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So is there anything else anybody would like to add to the agenda before we move for approval of the agenda?
Daryl, this is Joni. I don't have anything to add, but I did want to say for the first time, we are recording this meeting live and it's being broadcast live. So just so everyone knows, you're all being recorded, and this meeting will be recorded and cataloged on our AMATS website. So this is kind of how we'll do them from here on out. And so just that you know that this is live and you're being recorded. And
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's it. And just one more reminder, when you're not speaking, if you want to mute, just so that we don't get the echo. I haven't heard any echo yet, but.
Oh, and can we also reflect that Chelsea has joined us?
Chelsea.
Hi, Chelsea. So any other agenda?
Sorry to be late.
Any other agenda items to add?
Not an agenda item, but given if we're being recorded, does the chat reflect that? Like Daryl just wanted to add D and amend the agenda, and I just wrote in the chat I support it, or do I need to vocalize that for the recording purpose?
They're both being recorded, Eric.
Okay.
So the chat and the audio.
Okay.
And the video, I think.
Awesome. So with no other agenda items to be added, I would accept a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of item number D, talking about pedestrian vehicle issues in Lake Otis area.
I so move.
Do we have a
To accept
second?
the agenda as proposed by Daryl.
Eric moved.
Carol,
Who
second.
Carol is
Carol
second.
seconded. Any opposition? Awesome. Then the agenda as revised has been approved. We have no action items, so we'll move straight into general information. Our first item is a Seward Highway, O'Malley Road to Diamond, discussion by Rachel Steer from Dow.
Hi there, and I'm actually going to pass off the presentation to Travis Holmes and Sean Baskey from DOT.
Thank you, Rachel. Sean, Travis, you got the floor.
Yeah. Am I coming through all right?
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, I just threw up a screen share of the overall project just to let us have something to look at while I'm talking. But so Sean Baskey, I'm a project manager with the Department of Transportation, one of 14. I've got about 15 to 20 projects here in the region, and a number of them that you guys will be interested in that we'll be coming to talk with you about here in the near future. Spinard Road probably, and 36th Avenue. But today we're talking about Seward Highway, O'Malley to Diamond. And this is going to be the third time that we've come and talked to BPAC, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback in the past. And we've addressed a lot of the things that were brought up in previous meetings. But because we have a couple new faces to the group since we were last here, it'd be good for us to just reflect on where we were and where we are on the project. So it's Seward Highway, O'Malley to Diamond project. So basically going from O'Malley to Diamond with extending what would be the 6-lane configuration that we constructed all the way to Diamond in previous phases, and then completing a lot of the connections and other things that occurred on that off ramp over to Scooter, over into the business area on Old Seward. So that's the general area that we're talking about. So the overall project goals and things that we're trying to address are some capacity issues. Certainly on the highway, at certain times of day, you've got some major capacity issues. At the interchanges at Diamond and O'Malley, you've got some capacity issues. And then along with that, of course, is other thing that we're trying to address is safety concerns. And so there's been a number of crashes through the area, both bicycle, pedestrian, and vehicle crashes. And so, just looking over a 5-year study, there were 9 crashes with bikes and peds at the Diamond interchange during our study period. 7 at Old Seward Highway and Diamond, so just west of our project improvements, unfortunately outside of the scope of our project area, but that gives you a kind of a heads up of where we're at on the bike and ped side of things. On the motorized vehicle side of things, there were 48 crashes on the highway, which resulted in 17 injuries. At the ramps and interchanges, as you would expect, we have much higher crash issues. So we had 953 crashes, and which resulted in 297 injuries, and luckily no fatalities or major, no fatalities for that study period. But personally, I lived in the area over here in these homes off of North Heather Meadows Loop, and I know some people are probably on their phones, and so it's hard to see what's going on. But my children used to play soccer at the soccer fields over here, and we'd walk to and from the soccer fields along the frontage roads on Brighton Drive, which of course have no very little shoulders, but no pathways and sidewalks and other things. And so walking along with a stroller along that stretch of Brayton, where you've got people going down Brayton at higher speeds than on the highway at 75 miles an hour, it's a scary place to be for sure. But the good news is we've got a lot of great improvements that we've got planned for the area. We heard some concerns from previous members of BPAC and some of you potentially about speeds on the frontage roads, and how to lower those, how to address some of the separation that'll be occurring, because we will be installing noise barriers along the entire stretch of the highway. Separation of the pathways from the main roadway, discussions about bike lanes and other things that we are including, and basically continuing what we did in the previous sections of the Seward Highway just north of here, Diamond North. But to help us visualize what we've got going on, maybe it'd be good for us to play a quick little video that we put together. We do have improvements such as a diverging Diamond interchange at the O'Malley interchange, which would be similar to what you see over at Muldoon right now. And then we do have a roundabout, grade separation that we're planning to put in at Scooter and Academy to connect to either side of the highway. The Department of Transportation has taken interim, stopgap measures to put in fencing and other things that were more robust. I know that when I was living here, you'd see constantly, kids, youth crossing the highway, breaking through the fencing and other things. And then DOT maintenance would go out and patch it, and then the next day, the kids would go out there and break through the fence and then walk across the highway. Well, we put in a HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program project, to try to mitigate some of those crossings, and so that's been pretty successful. But it just all points to a lack of connectivity for users, all users, but bicyclists and pedestrians for sure. And so there's a great improvement for a grade separation there to put in some stuff. But Travis, you want to share your screen and we'll try showing the video? We'll see how this works.
The Seward Highway O'Malley Road to Diamond Boulevard project will improve safety, add capacity, and improve cross-street connections along the Seward Highway. The project includes expansion of the freeway from 4 to 6 lanes, a new highway undercrossing at Scooter Avenue and Academy Drive, and construction of Alaska's second diverging diamond interchange, or DDI, at O'Malley Road. Traffic studies of the O'Malley Road corridor show that congestion will be reduced, traffic flow will improve, and pedestrian crossing times will be faster and safer, similar to what's been seen at Alaska's first DDI at the Glen Muldoon interchange. Drivers report that DDIs are intuitive. Here's how they work. Drivers crossing the highway on O'Malley Road toward the mountains will go through a traffic signal, cross to the opposite side of the road under the bridge, and then cross back over again. Traffic traveling westbound on O'Malley Road toward Minnesota Drive will do the same. At the first signal, they cross to the opposite side of the road, go under the highway bridge, and cross back over again as they leave the DDI. Bicycles and pedestrians travel through the DDI in a protected central pathway. A major benefit of the DDI is that vehicles don't have to cross opposing traffic when entering or exiting the highway, which greatly reduces wait times at the interchange. A new east-west undercrossing at Scooter Avenue and Academy Drive will provide a vital link between Abbott Road and Old Seward Highway for all travelers. This new undercrossing will provide a direct connection between neighborhoods east of the highway with the Diamond Center retail area and deter pedestrians from crossing the highway illegally. The Diamond Boulevard configuration will remain largely the same, with targeted bicycle and pedestrian safety improvements at the interchange. Due to the short distance between Diamond Boulevard and the new Scooter Academy crossing, southbound traffic will go through the roundabout before entering the highway. Bike lanes and multi-use paths or sidewalks are planned along Brayton Drive. In addition, the existing multi-use path along the west side of Homer Drive will be reconstructed. Construction on this project is anticipated to start in 2023 and will be largely complete by 2025. For more information, go to www.sewardhighway.info. This project is brought to you by the Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities.
All right. So, yeah, and that video, for anybody that might be on their phones and maybe couldn't see all of the information there, or is just too small, then feel free to hop onto our website, and it is there at sewardhighway.info. And so there's a ton of information there. And I guess one thing that I kind of forgot to mention is, I highlighted the crashes that we've had, unfortunately, at the Diamond interchange. Previously, I think we had probably come in and said that we were going to be putting in a diverging Diamond interchange at replacing this Diamond interchange with a DDI. And since then, we've pulled back from that due to a number of reasons, but we've elected to keep in spot improvement to try to reduce some of the crashes that we've seen at the off-ramp at the Diamond interchange, putting in a pedestrian refuge island there and trying to provide some additional separation. So that way, hopefully we can reduce some of those crashes. Outside of that, I think the video answered a couple of the other questions that might be out there. When is this project coming? Right now, we're just got past 95% earlier this year. We're headed towards 100% design. We've been through the complete CSS process. A number of other things have been done, but we're headed towards the finish line. But because we've got a lot of things on the list to get done still, outside of just design elements, we're probably not out there until 2023 or after. But that doesn't mean that we're completely done with everything that we've got going on. And so if there's any feedback that we can get on anything that we've got going on, I know that there might be questions about certain facilities and what those might look like, widths of things. We got a team here of people that can probably help answer a number of those things. We're open to questions, I guess.
Any questions from committee members or staff?
This is Carol. I'm just trying to picture the diverging diamond. This one looks like it goes underneath the road versus the one that's on the Glen Highway goes over the highway. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
So is that going to be a little easier for pedestrians? Because I find the diverging diamond that goes over the Glen as a bicyclist awkward. It feels safe, but you have to stop multiple times. Is that still going to be the same issue here?
Yeah, I mean the basic layout of a diverging diamond interchange, whether you go over or under, is still, you know, relatively the same. This is kind of constrained a little bit more as far as space goes. Like that last one at Muldoon, you know, it's got a bunch of desirable things from the roadway standpoint, where, you know, opposing traffic is further separated, right? Because you don't have the constraint of what we're dealing with at O'Malley, where we're kind of pinned with this existing bridge width. Whereas at Muldoon, you've got these two roadways that are much more separated. And so maybe wayfinding is a little bit more difficult, which I'm trying to pick up that might be some of the issues potentially associated with the Muldoon that you're trying to point out. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what it is I don't like about it. It feels safe, so I'll say that much, but it is awkward, and I feel like I stop multiple times, whereas in the old days you used to just go underneath and it was very efficient. But this is the opposite as that one was put in.
Yeah, and so similar to that one, you're still going to have to go down the center, and so you probably still have the same number of crossings. I mean, we could have people confirm that, but the nice thing about these crossings is you're crossing less lanes of traffic, and, you know, potentially, you know, well, in every one of these situations, you're always crossing one direction of traffic, and so, you know, from that standpoint, I feel safer walking through the intersection at Muldoon from that standpoint. So that's kind of nice. Whereas you don't have to cross, you know, 4, 5, 6 lanes of traffic.
Hi, this is Eric. Two questions. One, are there going to be stoplights associated with this? Did I see that in the presentation? In
certain legs of the diverging diamond interchange, there will be. At others, there won't. So, for instance, at this would be the southwest quadrant. So, you know, Alaska Club and things over here, right? And so for this right turn, you know, bypass, or, you know, for this right turn lane, we wouldn't have a signalized intersection there or a signal there to have people cross. But, you know, that's a relatively minor movement, right? When we're talking about some of the major movements where we got lots of traffic coming through, then you've got this one right here. And some other people on the call can probably confirm that, but, you know, we when we put in these double, you know, when we put in these kinds of crossings, those are usually signalized. Somebody else can confirm that for me, but.
Well, no, my question was just making sure they weren't going to be earlier in the situation coming off the highway, because then I was going to ask, are we going to have one of those big signs that prepare you to slow down and stop? You see those, like when you're coming off the highway coming into Anchorage?
Sure, yeah.
That's what my question was. But I don't think if they're that far out, which like normally at Diamond you don't need it now, that would be okay. My second question then becomes an issue of snow removal. And if a person utilizes a wheelchair is trying to engage in independent movement, will the snow removal be occurring at a clip where they're not blocked because of the height of any mounds of snow? So their visibility can be seen. Are we taking into account that these paths have to be kept clear across so there's no barriers for visibility?
I'll try to hit what I know. So similar to everywhere around Anchorage, you know, the department, you guys have probably had, you know, many discussions with us about, you know, our capabilities and whatnot. And so nothing changes as far as our capabilities with any improvements coming through any of these things. The department is made for high speed operations. You know, we don't have, you know, in the 2 or 3 pieces of equipment for graders we don't even have the wings to put blocks down to keep windrows from going across any paths or anything like that. And so, what you see around town would continue to happen here, where we'd have windrows until we were able to go back after a storm, sometimes 3, 4, 5 days later after, everything else is cleaned up. It's just a fiscal reality that we're in for sure. Does that confirm what you were fearing? Or
Yes, you confirmed what I was fearing.
sure, yeah. No, I mean, outside of additional funding, I don't know what else, what else to bring to the table there. Yeah, I mean, we've reduced. I'd point out that compared to the municipality of Anchorage and some other local jurisdictions, we've got the same number of lane miles as the municipality of Anchorage to clear, but most of ours are on the highway, and so we're high-speed operations, obviously. But I think like the municipality has 4 or 5 times the number of maintenance staff and equipment, and so we're running split operations where we've got maybe 7 people crewed up at any one particular time, covering all the way from the flats out in the Matsu Valley all the way down to halfway to Girdwood, and they're running in tandem. So you've got 2 operators running the highways at any one time. We just don't have equipment and manpower and to do anything. We've laid off personnel, closed maintenance stations, and we just can't do anything more. We don't even have enough money to turn on the lights right now, quite frankly. We've got money for capital improvements such as this project, but we don't have money to maintain it from the state side. This is a federally funded project. I'm probably telling you everything that's been told to you before, though. So,
are there other design options that don't require removal of snow plowed onto these pathways and curb cuts?
I'm not aware of any. I'll say that. I mean, if we had an option, we spend lots of money on the capital improvement side to try to eliminate and reduce our maintenance staff's burdens. That way they can have a better level of service for the public. But I can't think of anything. I mean, on other projects, we've looked at putting in melting equipment and other things, but then that still comes from the same operations budget, and so you're either melting the sidewalk or paying for a plow driver, and so you can't lay off any more plow drivers because we've got to plow all the facilities, and so it's an extremely difficult balance for us, for the last 5-10 years. If you guys have some ideas, though, we'd love to hear them, because we're trying.
Okay. Mr. Chair, Lindsay has her hand raised, and Chelsea did have her hand raised but went back down, but at least one question in the chat for you.
Yeah, hi, this is Lindsay.
Hey, Lindsay.
So I haven't followed this project very closely, but I'm glad to see the improvements that are proposed for Brayton. Brayton is a road that a pedestrian was killed on this year, and more in recent years as well. And so my question is just I'm not sure about the timeline, but if the timing for Brayton could be prioritized, or if it's all happening on the same timeline. I'm just curious about that. And I would also just say, continuing to expand all of the lanes on the Seward Highway seems counterintuitive to trying to reduce congestion. Don't really know that that all goes hand in hand, but that's my own personal comment to just add in there. But would love to hear just the thoughts about timing and how to move the Brayton project forward for pedestrian safety, especially.
Sure, yeah. Great. So when it comes to Brayton, the entire project is all one phase right now. We have not been asked to split it into multiple phases. It's a large project, and there's a potential that that question may come up. But if anything, likely situation would be splitting up sections of the highway to improve, like O'Malley, and then or Diamond and Scooter and Academy. But as of right now, it's all one big hit. Similar to what we did on previous sections of the project north of here, we would expect that a contractor is likely to build out the frontage roads first, so that way you could then move highway traffic over to it, and then flop all your construction to the middle. And so that's basically what's happened in the last two phases. Unfortunately, for some time, you're going to have highway traffic on the frontage roads like Brayton.
Good, thanks.
Yep.
I see that Carol typed a question in the chat. Do the green and red lines represent different types of paths?
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not watching all the chats there. But so the red we've just highlighted it so that way it's easy for you guys to see. So those would be the pathways and sidewalks, depending on where you're at. Where we've got room, we're trying to do separated pathways, and then where we can't, then we've got sidewalks right up next to it. And then the green is just trying to highlight all of the bike lanes. It won't be painted green, similar to what you see on Spenard Road, but it'll be bike lanes, striped with stencils and all that.
Any other questions for our presenters?
Yeah, CV Brady, I'm just a public commenter right now. I just have a 30,000-foot question because I don't know, and pardon my ignorance. But when we get federal funds to these massive improvements, but we can't maintain already, is maintenance included at all, or is that excluded when we get these federal grants?
Sure. So the state gets a set amount of federal funding, and then operations and maintenance is a state function. So we agree basically by accepting the money that we will maintain it to a certain standard. Now, the federal government doesn't really dictate what those standards are, nor do they have any definitive answer on what, standards things have to be maintained to. But there's been, so if we're talking about maintenance as far as like cracking and pavement deterioration and things like that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a walker,
Sure.
and I mean more snow, frankly.
Sure. Yeah, we have not found a way to tap the federal side to cover plowing. We have been able to federalize certain aspects of our maintenance, which has allowed us to plow more, to be quite honest. We've federalized striping a lot of our highways. We've federalized doing crack sealing and doing a number of other things. I think in our region, we've got $13 or $14 million that we use to try to just patch asphalt. that would normally come out of our state budget. And so we've been able to take basically $13 or $14 million worth of state money and apply it to just being able to plow and do all those other things that we need to do.
I'm not trying to judge you or put your back against the wall.
Sure.
I'm just trying to. I'm new. This is my first time in one of these meetings.
It's a great.
The improvements to me look excellent, unless they aren't maintained. For me personally, in a snow condition, and is this federal money only, and then the city is, or the state is dealt with the repercussions of maintenance after? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So, and when we say federally funded, usually, almost all the time, we're talking about a local match. And so it depends on which project we're talking about, but most of the projects that the Department of Transportation does, the local match is by the state. And so it's usually about a 90-10 split. On this project, it's probably about 93, 94% federally funded, and then, 6 to 7% state funded, but 90-10 is a good round number.
So because it's Highway 1, it's federally funded, right? Is that how it works, or? State highway?
There's a lot more to it, but
okay. I'm sorry for my ignorance again. I'm worried from a pedestrian point of view. My concern would be, it looks fantastic. Mm-hmm. What's it going to look like after 2023?
Sure. Well, we do have.
I know you can't answer that. It's a maintenance issue. I don't mean to set you up. I'm just, it's the question coming from my point of view.
And it's fair because, ultimately accountability by the department for, the improvements and the money spent, we need to be accountable for our actions. And so I would say that when we're designing these projects, we're designing for a 20-year time frame generally on these large kinds of projects. And so although we've got a dire fiscal situation with the state, with budget cuts impacting every department, including the Department of Transportation, we can't always design all of our highways to be zero maintenance, right? I mean, if we were doing that, then quite frankly, we'd take away a lot of these things that, we as a community really desire. I'm an avid biker. I put, 500 miles on my bike on our trails and everything else a year. I feel that these are important things for our community. But, to be honest, if we were trying to reduce maintenance, then a lot of these items that take a lot more maintenance time because we're doing super low speed operations with a lot of our equipment and other things, then we would be removing them. But, as evidenced here with our project, we know that it's a vital part of our community. And so, we're trying to put in improvements that, hopefully 5 years from now, we're in a better situation on the state side. Outside of that, I've worked with local communities to have them maintain certain facilities that they desired, but we couldn't maintain. There's other tools in the toolbox that we've tried to use. I think Sean Gardner, she's one of our planners. She might have some other information.
Oh, I'm not, and just real quick, I'm not trying to hijack the conversation. I just believe as a pedestrian that a lot of times we make great improvements, and I think this is an excellent one, but then they fall victim to maintenance. And so thank you. It's a very good explanation. I wasn't trying to, like I said, hijack the conversation.
Yeah, sorry, I'm Sean Gardner. I'm the DOT Anchorage area planner. It is an important thing to talk about, and some perspective about where DOT is with things like this and why there's money for capital programs, but not necessarily for maintenance. So up until very, very recently, the federal government would only subsidize things that enhance vehicle trips. But that changed very recently. And so now it's person trips. And we don't know exactly how that's going to change the way the federal government subsidizes paths, trails, maintaining paths and trails, because it hasn't really shaken out yet. The Seward Highway is a part of the National Highway System, so it does have to be maintained to a certain standard, but like Sean said, that standard isn't particularly clear. It isn't laid out very clearly in the code. But I would say now that the federal legislation says person trips and paths and trails include person trips, you know, I empathize because yes, I've walked and you just get giant berms on the side of the road and you're like, I can't walk on this. So yeah, I understand it's a big problem and it's an important thing to bring up. As of right now, it's really difficult to get federal money for maintaining paths and trails, but maybe, you know, because that legislation changed from vehicle trips to person trips, if we see people in the community and groups like this group saying, hey, we want maintenance for paths and trails as a part of something that helps person trips, I mean, that sort of pressure really does mean something to the federal government in the end. But I mean, you have to advocate for it. And Sean's right that right now, the maintenance money for the state is really limited. I wish I could. I wish I could help more.
Thank you. That's great. Is there a platform to include maintenance at all? I mean, even ADA could be thrown back at the feds. And sorry, again, I talk a little bit too much, but just curious as a pedestrian, like, why build great, wonderful?
Lost your microphone, CB.
What's that?
It's coming through all right for me.
My point being, if the federal government's going to give us a lot of money to make these wonderful pathways, but we can't afford to maintain them, could maintenance be a part of it as a Nordic or Arctic community?
I think there's an argument to be made for that. There are written into federal code specific exemptions for Alaska because there's so much federal highway in Alaska and because it's such a unique place for where the federal highways are. And frankly, there's nowhere else in the country that has the same kinds of needs that Alaska has on the roads. I think there's a case to be made for that. I would say bringing it to legislators, congresspeople, senators. Those are the people that are supposed to be advocating for us. So
no, that's great. Thank you. And we can do it as citizens. I was just curious about it from the standpoint if they included it, and it sounds like they don't. So
no.
And like I said, we have yet to find a way to federalize our plowing operations for the roadways, and so there's a unique argument potentially there for the pathways and sidewalks and other features, but it's definitely it's an uphill battle for sure.
Yeah, if it would be useful for this committee, I can look up the federal legislation about person trips and sort of send that information through, because it is a big change. And if we're talking about person trips in a northern environment, yes, maintenance should be included.
I think that would be important, Sean. We've had lots of dialogues, of course, related to this subject with different people over time, just as the other Sean said earlier. The problem I have is we talk often as pedestrians with the unassumption and that persons who utilize wheelchairs don't use these paths, and they're lower to the ground. I've been at this committee, and people are like, "Oh, well, they should put flags on the wheelchairs," which is stigmatizing. There's lots of things wrong with that. We're talking about an area where you come up and you come down. We're looking at a top view. It's going to be very important as you're sitting in your car, whether you're in a big Suburban or you're in a little Toyota. What can you see? Mm-hmm. And those big spaces that are there are promoting, let's put the snow there. So the question bears all of what's the plan, and it might not necessarily be your plan, but my role, I'm the executive director of Access Alaska. I will be one of those people that help put together the advocacy effort that you speak of. Daryl and I were just starting that before COVID. Once COVID hit, it all went to sleep. So yes, you're right in that pathway that you're speaking of, and how do you get people motivated, get them mobilized, have their voices heard. Typically once a year, everyone goes down and stomps the hill. We got 13 new people down there that won't even know their job when they get down there this year. And they got 4 huge topics that they got to tackle, or they can even begin to do their job right. But while this is beautiful, I'm just worried that someone will get hurt while we're waiting on what this looks like, because the path that a wheelchair utilizer can take when it's like that is to get out in the road. They have to take their wheelchair out in the road to navigate, regardless of everybody's planning. So that's all I'm trying to just bring to everyone's attention, so that we can take a path here in this committee to have our voices heard. So that was the point of what my question was bearing.
All right,
Yep.
So looking at the chat and people raising their hands, Carol has a question, then we'll go to Matt, then we'll go to Joni.
Oh, sorry.
Carol, you're muted.
Carol?
Yeah, you're muted.
Nope, still muted.
Carol?
You're still muted, Carol.
No, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, now we can.
Yes.
Teams does not, sorry, Teams doesn't work well for me. At what point do you decide on the speed limit for Brayton in the planning process? And can we propose a low speed limit for that? Because that has typically been as fast as the highway speed. At least the drivers are going highway speed.
Sure. And we had questions from the committee about those kinds of things previously as well. And so, you know, it's definitely been in our headlights. So I believe, if somebody else can correct me, but I believe the speed limit on the frontage road is 45 miles an hour. Somebody might correct me. But one major change that you're going to see here on this project as compared to what's existing out there right now, I can share my screen again. So one major element is this interchange at Scooter and Academy. And so when we add that in, it will be a large break in this very straight, feature that's out there. We'll have additional, on the traffic side, we call it friction, but you've got other things going on with on ramps and off ramps, which will, provide additional less, straight raceways for people. Like I said, I used to live off of, North Heather Meadows Loop over here, and we would have, it was crazy how people were going 75 miles an hour on that frontage road. But, as you come up to this roundabout, this will be about 10 to 15 feet lower than it is right now. And so you'll have to come down and then hit the roundabout and then come back up and out. And then, you've got the off ramp. So speeds in this area will definitely be lower. And then as you look further south, you've got the off ramp, and then, this space right here with the visual of other things going on up ahead, it might not feel as open as it is today. I don't know if that kind of helps So,
yes, it
some of
helped a
the-
little, but does this,
Yeah.
at what point in the planning process does the speed limit get decided? And is there any way to advocate for a lower speed limit and additional ways to slow traffic on that? I know you
Sure.
mentioned some that are already happening.
Yeah. I would say that, we're always open to comments about posting speed limits. One thing that we end up having to do on our roadways and highways is signing it appropriately. And there's a lot of analysis that goes into it and, adjustment of speed limits down. I think it's basically, one of our highest requests from the public. And we've got a division on the traffic engineering side that takes those requests and then works them. But speed limits are a very touchy thing in that if you put them too slow, then people will likely still go that speed limit that it was set at previously, because that speed limit that we set them at is kind of what we expect most drivers to go, regardless of whether or not the speed limit is that high or not. Certain characters of roads, we're always going to sign, local roads are always going to be signed at 25 miles an hour and other things, regardless of, people driving faster than that. But that speed disparity between, those people that are following the speed limit and going lower than it and what people feel like they should drive and are going to drive is what causes a lot of crashes. And so it's where we tried, or in nationally, and studies have been done on where we have artificially set speed limits lower than what the public is really going to be driving. That ends up causing more crashes and causing more safety issues. And so there's a very prescribed way that we go through trying to set those. It's not a great answer in that, I personally want people to drive slower on some of the roads around where I live, but yeah.
Okay, Matt.
All right, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Sure can.
All right, so yeah, I also have had kids playing soccer there on the fields there off of Academy. And one of the things that we worried about was inevitably a soccer ball is going to careen out into the street there, out into the frontage road.
Sure.
And kids and coaches and parents would have to go out there, and there was obviously hazards for people as well as for the drivers. But it looks like that noise mitigation barrier would prevent such a thing as that from happening.
So
in that particular area.
Yeah. So there's a church that owns this property, and so from there, it's a private property that's leased and used by a local soccer club. I'll just say, I used to coach there, and I've got kids that have gone through their system, but their current operations will not be able to occur in the future. It'll have to be resized. But if you can imagine the roundabout being about 10 feet lower, and then it'll climb up as you move to the east towards Vanguard. This area will be completely different than what it is today. And as you can see, we kind of go over top of the existing soccer fields as you see them. So there'll be a lot less capacity for games in this area. There's no on-street parking. We'll have bike lanes and sidewalks and pathways, separated pathway on the south side, but there's no on-street parking. And so, today, if that operation were to, try to go out and get permitted for it, I just don't know how they would be able to operate in the future.
Sure. And then, yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. And I probably could have figured that out myself just by looking at the drawing there. And another, perhaps a bigger question I have is, will those sound barriers, you talked about you want to prevent folks from breaking through and crossing the street illegally across the heavy zones there. will there be breaks in this sound barrier at all where people can get to a safe place to access, or will they have to go to what I see here as the end of the barrier in order to get through to the safe crossing zones? Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, great. So the sound barriers at each public approach will have a break. Now, if you want to get around the sound barrier, you're going to have to go all the way around. Unfortunately, you know, these are serving multiple things, but you know, if we put in breaks, then potentially you're you know, letting sound through. But you know, for the major access points, we've certainly got breaks in them. We'll additionally have fencing along the highway or very large grade separations with, you know, walls and other things that'll prevent people from crossing you know, some of these areas. And so you know, if I were to walk from, you know, let's say this neighborhood and want to get across the highway, then I would have probably a fence in between the highway and the frontage road, and then another fence on the other side between the highway and the frontage road, potentially. I can't remember off the top of my head. And so I also would probably have a wall in this section that I might have to climb up. So instead, you know, now that we've provided that big break, which this is where most of those kids are crossing, is right over here. You know, I would go along the pathway and then cross across the roundabout and then hop over to, you know, Academy and Scooter. That would be the least path of resistance because of the features that we're going to be putting in. But, you know, certainly there's an opportunity, I guess, for somebody to damage a wall or a fence and try to break through those, but we'd go out and patch those.
Mm-hmm. And then one more quick comment and I'll jump off, and that is, you know, for the crossing, the Double Diamond crossing over there on Glen and Muldoon, I've always been a little bit boggled by why did they do it this way. And then when I see this animation with the traffic flows, et cetera, it became immediately clear why there's that crossover pattern. And it has to do with cars accessing the flow in a more direct way. I believe that's what I took from there. Yeah. So anyway, although we've already talked about some of the issues, you know, on the ground that aren't addressed by this wonderful drawing, I think this is a wonderful drawing, and the animation really provides a lot of good, clear visual explanation of what's really going on as cars flow through that area. So I commend the drafts people that are behind that.
Yeah, we've got a great team of people that spent a lot of time on that. So thank you for those comments.
All right, Joni.
Okay, hi. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Sean and Sean. Super appreciate all this great info, and I'm really been appreciating this really good discussion that you engaged the committee with. And I wanted to also say I really love the visual graphics. Those are amazing. Really give you a good idea of how that's going to operate. I did have one question. Oh, and a comment about the maintenance too. My one question was the bike lanes. I know for the non-motorized plan, we are recommending the regular bike lanes on facilities that are 25 miles per hour or less. So I'm wondering if and I thought that when we saw the bike lane, there wasn't any kind of buffer or anything there. But I'm wondering if we're not able to decrease the speed, if there is some room to add, you know, 18 inches of a stripe buffer or something like that, just to give the bicyclists a little bit more protection. Or I could have seen the drawing wrong too. And then the second comment was, I think we should, I agree with Sean about, I think the maintenance issue requires more of a comprehensive legislative approach. And if there's anything that we can do at AMATS to help advocate for more maintenance dollars, we're happy to host another maintenance forum. I think that's on our to-do list anyways for the non-motorized plan. So just let us know. we'd love to help out. So that's it. I'll mute myself here.
All right, I think Steve has a question.
I do, and actually I would like to follow up with what Joni just said about buffered bike lanes, and I totally understand the lack of maintenance funding, but it looks to me that for the vast majority of Brayton Drive, that it might simply be a design issue that you could create a buffered bike lane for the majority of that stretch, with the snow just being cleared on the highway side instead of onto the bike lane and the sidewalk, which, face it, we all know that's exactly what the plow drivers will do. It looks like there is a place for that snow to happen. There is a way to have a higher speed traffic flow, and there is a way to have protected cyclists and pedestrians all within the space that's there.
So we can take a look at it again and see if there's any space within the existing footprint that we've got, you know, on the table right now at nearly 97, 98% complete, and almost all of the property purchased for the project. You know, we'd have to be playing with what we've got, you know, the space that we've allocated already. So, you know, we'd have to play with shoulder widths, lane widths, and I guess pathway widths to narrow pathways, narrow shoulders, narrow lane widths. I think we're already, you know, largely at minimums for those facilities through that area, but we can take a look at it.
What I'm suggesting is not doing anything with the pathway or the bike lane, rather plowing that snow on the highway side. So it would be the west side, because presumably a drainage there. There's obviously a good distance between the two roadways.
Sure. Yeah, we could talk to our maintenance staff and see if there's, you know, an operation that they could use to work it that way. Unfortunately, I don't drive plow trucks, so I don't know.
Like I said, we all know they're going to plow onto the sidewalk if given the opportunity, but if there were, you know, a continuous buffered wall there, that kind of prohibits that. And also another alternative for where that snow could be stored. That said, the comment that I had typed was the termination and beginning of these bike lanes, at least what I'm seeing in that overview, which, you know, does not show any significant detail. It seems like they are starting and stopping relatively arbitrarily, and I'm wondering if there is a safe way onto and off of those bike lanes.
We might be able to pull up the detail for that. I don't know if anybody else from our team has done so in the meantime. Probably not. What we can do is we can email what we're proposing to the committee, and if there's an alternative that you guys would like to suggest, then, you know, we're all ears.
This is Joni again. Sorry to interrupt you, Steve. Yeah, we do. I know it's late in the design game, and I know how, you know, that's definitely not ideal coming in at the tail end with more suggestions, but we do appreciate you guys taking a look at that, and we can definitely put together a letter, memo, or something to send your way for you to take a more of an in-depth look And thank you again for being here and being receptive.
Yeah.
All right. Any last question before we wrap up this part of our agenda? All right. Sean, and Travis, thank you very much. It was a very informative presentation. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And Rachel too.
Thank you.
All right. Our next agenda item is an update on the non-motorized plan.
All right, everyone. Yes. Okay. So we're finally on the TAC agenda. We are on the agenda for December, which is in 2 days. Yay. So we had an extensive interagency review, almost 500 comments that we sifted through, responded to, consultants responded to, trying to get this plan as ship-shape as we can before we take it out to the public review. So we are asking for their approval to release that on Thursday. And if they give us that, then we will open it up for a 60-day public review. It's normally 30 days, but we're taking an extra month so we can gather everyone's comments accordingly. We have, we're going to have 2 more advisory group meetings, a community advisory group meeting and an agency advisory group meeting. So those are going to be held sometime within those 2 months. We're also going to schedule a virtual open house. So that will probably be towards the end of the 2nd month. And then we will be gathering all those comments and then doing another round of edits, or not, we're actually not going to do edits, but we will be gathering all the comments into a table and then taking it to the TAC once again. So that's what the schedule is. I would really love for this committee to take a really good look at that plan. So I was wondering if we could schedule a meeting with this committee to review the entire document. We can send it out to all of you as soon as we get approval from the TAC, give you a couple weeks to look at it, and then schedule a special work session to go over the plan, come up with some comments that the committee would like to submit. And yeah, because I think as far as this committee is concerned, this is one of your really big, important opportunities to be heard and make a difference, and just, you know, make big decisions that are going to be long lasting for Anchorage and the AMATS area. So that is what's going on with that. Does anyone have any questions about the non-motorized plan right now before I move on to other projects?
If you could, once you know, Joni, this is Carol, that the plan is approved and released, the sooner you can get the meeting on the books, I'd appreciate that due to busy schedules. And then if we need to have a secondary meeting, we would still have time. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We don't have to limit it to one. I will. How about this? Go ahead.
You have a contractor doing your public comment?
Yes, we do have Alta Planning and Design is still on contract with us. Their funding is pretty limited now because we've had so many comments already. So if they don't end up doing it, I'll end up doing it. But we still have contractors on board, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will, as soon as we get approval from the TAC, I will send out an email to the group, and I'll send out a doodle poll, and we can, how long do you think folks need to, I mean, it's a pretty big plan. It's pretty long. How long do you feel like you want to take a look at it? A couple weeks?
2 to 3 weeks, and then plan a meeting, and then that way we'll have time for figuring out our response if we've only got 60 days.
Okay, that sounds good. So I'll do 3 weeks from our release date. That way you can all have the document. And if anyone needs a printed copy, I'm happy to print them out at the Muni and deliver them to you if you want one of those. So just let me know. Otherwise, it'll be PDF, and you can download it right from the It's actually on the AMAT's website right now, so you could go on there and look at it. So, any other questions on the non-motorized plan? No? Okay. Also, so other projects we've got going, I can't remember. I know I didn't announce this is our last meeting because that was last quarter. So anyways, the Spinard quarter plan has been adopted. Yay. Finally, we're so excited. Unanimously adopted and approved by the Assembly. I just want to shout out again to Lindsay, Duke for all of your help getting that passed. There's a tremendous amount of support from the community, and we appreciated that, and that definitely showed. So thank you again. We are incorporating final edits into that plan. We should have a document available for print shortly after the new year. So that's what's happening there. Urban Streets Magazine. Did you guys get your copy? Do you recognize the cover model? CV, that's CV. Our newest, hopefully our newest BPAC member was our cover star. Talking about,
hey, I live downtown. I didn't get mine, but hopefully tomorrow.
I don't know. Yeah, that's always how it happens. The cover person never gets theirs till like a week after everyone else. So, but I got a bunch of copies in the mail, so I'll drop some by tomorrow.
I got mine, CB. I live 2 blocks from you. I got mine.
Yeah, I didn't get any mail today, so my guy could have been, you know, I don't know. He saw me and maybe he was skipping me. I don't know.
I was like, I'm not giving this to
I live in Fairview. I got mine today.
Oh, okay.
Well, thanks to Joni. I really appreciate the opportunity, and that's why I'm here tonight. It was great, so thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, CV. We're excited to have you on the committee, and I think you'll be a great set of eyes and ears for us to give us a whole new perspective of people's experiences. So check out your magazine. If you want an extra copy, I did get 250 copies mailed to me, so I'm happy to drop some by if you want some extra, if you want extra for your workplace or something. Now that we have COVID, I usually go around and deliver them everywhere, but now that we have COVID, I'm not really sure if I should wait until the shutdown's over or if I should just go and deliver them now. I don't know, so thinking about that. But other things on our project list, we did put together a complete streets checklist. That was on the back burner. We are doing that in tandem with our new tip scoring criteria, which Craig and Aaron have been working on. So we are excited to incorporate complete streets more into our project through these 2 tools, one being the checklist, the other one being the tip criteria. So we are working on that. Street typologies plan has kind of been on the back burner as we're getting these other plans adopted, but it's on my list of things to do as soon as this non-motorized plan gets released. And then the last thing on my list here is a maintenance forum that I think we should schedule because I feel like that would be really beneficial, especially in light of these projects and this non-motorized plan, public outreach, and everything. So that's all I got. Craig, did you have anything? Did I forget anything?
I think that's about it. You got it.
All right. Oh, I think you're muted, Daryl.
It's like a delayed reaction sometimes. So once the maintenance forum is scheduled, could you, as soon as it's scheduled, could you get the information out to the committee members? I attended the last one, well, I think it was 3 years ago, and it was so informative. It would be great if as many committee members as possible were able to attend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. Once we have something scheduled, I'll work on that with Craig and we'll get something on the books here. And yeah, for sure, we'll send it out to everyone. Also, I sent out that link to the NACDO Designing Cities Conference, which is free this year. So if any of you have time That's a really good conference, and it's well worth it. There's a bunch of free sessions on, so just log on to there. I think it starts tomorrow and goes through next Wednesday or something. But it's really the best conference I've ever been to, aside from AMPO, right? And it's worth it. So get on there and get some free sessions.
All right. Any questions for Joni?
Cheryl asked if Urban Streets was online yet.
I don't think it's online yet, Carol, but it will be very shortly. I need to just check with the publishers on when they're going to get that up, but it should be. I will send an email. I'll send the link out to the group when it's up. Should be up any day.
All right. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which was a discussion of the vehicle pedestrian incidents that have been occurring in the Tudor Lake Otis area. There was, a front page newspaper article this morning. This is an issue. Lindsay sent an email earlier this afternoon. So Lindsay, and then I know Joni sent an email late this afternoon with some possible actions the BPAC could consider regarding this topic. So Lindsay, would you like to start us off with this discussion?
Sure, thanks, Daryl. So I know that many folks probably saw this article and have seen many of them coming out this fall, as there have been a lot of pedestrian vehicle collisions and a lot of pedestrian deaths this fall. And so I just wanted to bring it forward to the BPAC because the article had quotes from Assembly Member Felix Rivera saying that the Muni could potentially do something to step in and potentially fund some changes at the problem intersection around Tudor and Wright Street. So I wanted to see if we as a committee wanted to submit a letter either to the Assembly or to the acting mayor, or if, as Joni suggested, some good options as well. If we need to go through the policy committee, we could do something like that. But wanted to make sure that we could weigh in on this in some way and elevate the need for change in that intersection. So just wanted to bring it forward. And I know that there probably are a lot of different ideas about what we could do. I haven't come prepared with anything specific at this point.
Joni, you have your hand raised. Is that from previous, or did you raise your hand again?
I think that was from previous, but I'm happy to talk on that just real briefly. So the two suggestions I sent out this afternoon, which some of you may not have gotten, so it was after 5, I think, but one thing we have done before, which we can certainly do again, is write a letter from the BPAC committee to the policy committee. It has to go through the technical advisory committee. That encourages, DOT to do a special study or some action that you all propose that would help improve safety in this area. So that's definitely one thing that I think definitely do. We've done things like that before. The other thing that I think would be really helpful is as we look at this non-motorized plan is to recommend in the plan coming from the committee, either a prioritized project to improve the section of Tudor and I don't know all the ins and outs of, you probably want to get an engineer's opinion of what the safety improvements need to be, and recommend a prioritized project that you could have in the plan that we could then have a lot easier time funding through AMATs. So, because what I see as a big problem in the Tudor area is just that it's a conflict of the land use and the transportation. And the transportation is operating as it always has, but the land use is changing around it. You have a lot more people trying to cross the street. We work right over there. You see them running across all the time. And I feel like, the more we can just say, hey, is it possible to change this street classification in this area or change the street design in this area, which I think historically is something that, DOT hasn't really been able to do, but it's a good opportunity for us to make that proposal and take more of a street typologies approach by saying, you know, the road may function fine in other areas, but in this specific area, the land use is conflicting. We need to take a look at that and figure out how to change that to make it safer. So those are my two suggestions, and I'll mute myself here. But
any committee members have any thoughts, comments?
I mean, I really appreciate that, Joni, and getting DOT to be more aware of that. There are so many issues with that roadway, and that was one of the busiest intersections, you know, coming off of Tudor and Lake Otis, and, you know, expanded that intersection for traffic. So more traffic can go through there than they at faster speeds, I think. I think one of the biggest issues we've always had with that section of road is that DOT owns it, and the Muni wants to fix it. And so that we have to figure out how to get those two groups to really work together and decide, you know, with the article, Scott, I think it's Thomas, right, at DOT, he was talking about, well, we'll improve the lighting. And I'm like, well, this lighting, what are the outcomes when you improve the lighting? Are we really going to save lives by putting in lighting, or are we just making the public feel better about it? So that was a question I have for them as well. Do we have evidence that that, you know, helps? And is lighting insufficient in that area? So I'd like to pose that question to them as well, if we're going to put something forward.
Thank you, Carol. I see Sean has their hand up.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a big problem and it goes back a long time. My understanding from the article is that there's a holistic issue of land use in combination with the road system. I mean, I agree with Joni that there needs to be collaboration, you know, between the Muni and DOT for this. From a planning perspective, I'm a planner. You know, I feel like there may be potential for traffic calming in that area, but I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I don't know what the physical constraints are. But I agree. I think there needs to be a look at land use. There needs to be a look at how the roads are functioning in that space and how it interacts with the way people are using it.
Thank you, Sean. Eric, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thanks. I do agree with what Joni is proposing. Just again, historically, we had a member on this committee who sometimes, while he wasn't able to express himself in the best way, Zach was very, very ardent, Zach Fields, in expressing speed kills, traffic calming is very, very important. We need to have reduced speeds if we really want to have a bicycle-friendly city and environment. And he often would cite evidences of a 10-mile-an-hour reduction and the reduction of traffic calamities that were incurring in injuries and deaths. So I would just remind us of that. We spent 2-3 active years really trying to push that and make that something that this committee was successful with. Zach happens to work. We know where he works. Maybe he can help, given he's working for the state now with some of this. I'm sure he's very, very still vested in having a bicycle-friendly community. So he might be somebody we can employ to help us with this measure. So I just wanted to remind folks of that.
Thanks, Eric. I wanted to, you know, something Sean had said, and Joni touched on also, this is a state road, but when you have the chair of the assembly saying they think the municipality needs to work with the state, I think any letter we send needs to go to the state and the Muni, and we need to encourage them to work together to find a solution. So any other comments from committee members regarding this topic?
I was just going to say, I agree with you, Daryl, and I feel like the AMATs, the MPO, is that they're the perfect
perfect body
to do that. So that's their job, and that's your role as the committee. So
could we have any committee members or any of our partners who are, part of the meeting tonight, if we could email suggestions for a letter, what we would like to see included. Some of you have already expressed comments, but if we could get those to Joni, and then we could work on a draft letter. So what would be, get those comments to you by next week sometime?
Yeah, you sure? And if you want to, you could just, brainstorm some ideas. I feel like what would be really useful is to pull in, to have a longer discussion and pull in some engineers, maybe pull in Scott Thomas from DOT, because he's perfect. And he's been very helpful with our non-motorized plan, our Skinado Quarter Plan. And, to have some real meat behind your letter, and, we talk to these engineers, these experts, and we'd like to encourage this sort of, I'm happy to draft the letter if you guys want to just send me your ideas, or one of you could draft it and I could just take a stab at editing it or something. But I would encourage to consult a little bit with some engineers who are experts in this, and they know, what's involved with the traffic calming, and what a solution could possibly look like. So, or maybe the letter could just state that you encourage the city and the state to have that dialogue, maybe in a public forum, since this is such a public project. But.
I think
oh, sorry, Daryl. I think that's a better idea, because we're not experts in engineering or traffic and lights.
Right.
And then we need influential people at the table, like Felix, if he's on the committee, or if Zach wants to step in, like people who can make decisions about funding to help fix this.
Yeah.
I love the idea of a public discussion. I agree with Carol and I agree with Joni. Some sort of a public forum, public discussion. You have the experts at the table, but also the public who who are in that area, walking and biking and driving, crossing the street. I think it's important to hear from the users.
Right.
But I think the first step for us is a letter encouraging them, to the state and the muni, to work together, to pull the experts in who would be necessary to have a really robust conversation about what needs to be done and what can be done.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
Can I jump in?
So, jump in.
All right. So I have a kind of a theory I've been trying on mentally recently. It seems like whenever there's a tough problem in the community and ideas are proposed, that we get a lot of, regardless of the domain we're talking about, we get a lot of pushback that says, well, that won't solve the entire problem. Well, what about this and what about this? And then it seems like the whole idea, the whole measure might get shot down because it's not a panacea for every single aspect of that problem. And I get frustrated with that, because I think that there are no simple ideas, right? There are no easy solutions. If there were, the problem would have been solved a long time ago. And so what I've been trying to do lately, and I wonder if anybody has any thoughts on this, is accept that an idea may not solve the whole problem. It might only solve 5% of the problem. It might solve 30% of the problem, whatever it is, but you should still try it. If it's not a complete solution, that's no reason to not do it at all. And somebody might say, well, we need more lights. Another person might say, well, that's not going to solve this problem or that problem. But so what? Put the lights in, or we need a slower traffic speed. Well, that's going to create these other problems. It won't solve all. So what? Do it anyway, you know, and maybe with an all of the above kind of a mindset, some of these nagging problems that we just can't live with, you know, could probably perhaps be mitigated, if not solved completely. So that's I've been thinking about that, because you see it a lot, you know, in the public commentary that, oh, that's never going to work because it doesn't solve the whole problem. But I think we should be looking at solutions that don't necessarily solve 100% of the problem.
Good point. It's the concept of complete solutions versus harm reduction. All right. Any other thoughts on this topic? So, Joni, were you going to draft a letter? I could help you with it if you'd like.
Sure. I will draft a letter and hold me accountable. I'll try to send that out tomorrow. A rough draft. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome.
And if you don't see it by 3, email me and ask me where it is. Please.
I'll call you up.
Or call me up.
Thanks. So with that, do we have any committee comments tonight?
I'll go.
All right.
So I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the bike ride we all took, the tour of the facilities. It was a lot of fun, beautiful day, and but it did make me realize something. I'm kind of a buy and hold sort of a guy, and maybe you saw my bike. My bike is, I think it's 35 years old, which is kind of scary to think about. I bought it brand new, Cannondale, you know, it cost me $700. And I love my bike, and I've been riding it and maintaining it for all this time. But when I saw the electric bikes and some of the other rigs and bling out there, I realized it might be time for me to retire my bike. So I'm gonna keep my old bike, but I'm gonna buy a new one here probably in the spring. And then one other comment I have is I've just recently taken on the responsibility of going back to being the chair of the North Star Community Council. So my first meeting will be here next week, and I had been in touch with Mark Butler, who I think many of you know Mark. He's a good friend of mine and a member of our community council here, and he's indicating that there's glimmers of life in the fireweed project coming back, and there's also glimmers of opposition to it that look exactly like the opposition to Spenard Road, and previously to that the previous iteration of Fireweed Lane. And he encouraged me to jump back into community council after being absent from it for a few years here. So now that our kids are all in college, I have a little more time on my hands. I'm going to be doing that, and I'm looking forward to it. So if there's any liaison or any benefits to being on both this committee and involved in community council, I'll be happy to exploit those. And then also, are there any conflicts in that such a holding 2 of those positions?
I don't think so. No. Right, Craig?
No.
Yeah.
Not as far as I know.
All right.
Happy to have you.
Okay, thank you.
Community councils are part of the local government process, but they're not part of local government.
True. Yep.
All right. Any other comments?
Hi, this is Eric. I wanted to ask a question. Joni, was there any more, at one point we were looking at Finland because they had a good maintenance structure in terms of how they were keeping their walkways and paths cleared. Is there any more information related to that we can move forward to our local government for?
You know what? I gave a Finland presentation after I got back from the conference last February, and I should give that to this committee. I think I invited members of the committee. I can't remember, but
You did.
As COVID was hitting and everyone was freaked out, so like 2 people came. But I'm happy to give that again. There's so much good information that they have, and it's, I know I've told CB this already, but it is a stark contrast what prioritizing maintenance will do for a city. I mean, they just prioritize it. Like their rule is 3 centimeters. When the snow is 3 centimeters, they have to plow. And if they're not out there plowing, people are getting fired. Because like I was up because of the time change, I was up at 1 in the morning. I kept waking up in the middle of the night, falling asleep at, you know, I could stay awake for a long time. I'd wake up at like 2 in the morning and I'd look out the window and it's been snowing all night and the pathway to town was completely plowed and clear. And it was like that all the time. And I asked them about it and they said, yeah, we just all, it's not political. Everyone agrees this is really important. People need to walk and bike and it just makes a difference. So again, what Sean was talking about today about legislative, having that be a priority. I think it's a culture shift and I think it's a priority shift. But anyways, I'm digressing now. But yes, Eric, I feel like there's a lot we can move forward with that Finland example. We could start with the presentation. I'm happy to give a presentation of the conference from last year and see how you guys think about that and move forward. I did get some really good stats from their maintenance folks on the machines they have to do maintenance, how much maintenance they do, what facilities they maintain, and how much that all costs them per year. So I think that would be super helpful as well.
Is the presentation something that could be on the next agenda?
Yeah, for sure. Or we could even do a special meeting for it too. But yeah, of course I could do it at the next agenda.
Okay, that would be
how long it was.
That'd be 3 months
I
away.
know. We should do it before then. Maybe
either way.
As a special meeting or like popcorn and movie night or something with the BPAC.
Yeah, that'd be great.
If you're interested. Not mandatory, of course.
Carol, you have your hand up, I see.
Okay. Oh, it worked. Two thoughts. That presentation could be done at the Winter Maintenance Forum as sort of a kickoff. And then hopefully we would be there. And then the second thing is the DOT did hire a bike ped coordinator. Julius is his first name. And if we could invite him to our next meeting, just for him to talk about his role at DOT to see what kind of influences he has, what he's working on, so we can see if there's any partnering we can do with the Muni or use his expertise to help solve some of these issues.
Yes, and we did invite, yep, and I've spoken to him several times on the email, and he was invited tonight. But I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to us about what DOT's up to. He's very enthusiastic about improving things too.
Yeah, that would be great just to get him, because I think that's a really nice way to partner with DOT and get some expertise at the table. Oh, Sean's saying something.
I just wanted to throw out there, Julius is great. He's a good guy. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other committee comments, partner comments?
I wanted to
see Lindsay.
Oh, Lindsay.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to share a couple things. One of them is that I participated in the Anchorage Transportation Fair virtually, and it was hard to know who did, other than if you could see some comments and a name that you knew, but some folks at DOT reached out to me just to provide feedback on how the virtual fair went. So if anybody joined and would like to come to a meeting just to share what they thought about it, some of the strengths, some challenges. I'm going to meet with them on Monday at 2 o'clock. So maybe just type in the chat or send me an email if you'd like to join. I think the more people who could give feedback, the better. They're interested in that. And then I also just wanted to thank folks for the discussion tonight. I just wanted to note, though, that the topic that we had the most discussion about was the project for the Seward Highway. And with it already being 95% design complete, it just felt like a challenging conversation to have without really believing there could be much change that could happen. And so just wanted to request that we could get projects earlier on when they're before the even 65% design, or however to do that. I've only been on the BPAC for the last year, so I don't know if they've already come to present at the committee meeting, but just want to make sure that our time and input and feedback could be incorporated at the times that the engineers and everyone can use it. Thank you.
Good point. Any other comments? Carol did note that they presented many years ago.
Yeah, and I will say that that's, I can't remember if it was Zach or Brian who was on the committee, but we had a lot of discussion about Brayton and bringing the speed limit down in that area and adding pedestrian and bike facilities. So I think that possibly some of that input did show up in the design today from the discussion years ago. Although the speed limit thing is still not solved, and Eric, I agree with you. We need to figure that out because we know lowering the speed saves lives, and there's some way to win on that one. I'd love to figure it out.
Thanks, Carol. Any other comments before we start wrapping up?
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for a really robust and good meeting. I really appreciate all of y'all's time and that you dedicate to this. It means a lot, and I think you do make a great difference here in Anchorage. So thank you so much. And even in the midst of this pandemic, we've still been able to have some really good meetings, and I appreciate it. So.
And thank you, Joni, for all your efforts, all your help with the committee, and Craig and our partners at the state. I just wanted to comment briefly. I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but the municipality now has what is a virtually real-time sidewalk plowing link on muni.org. So if you go to maintenance and operations where they have the street plowing maps, they also have a map now for sidewalk plowing, and it's virtually real time. So you might want to check that out. So do we have any public comments? I think you did say there was a member of the public that was participating.
Yeah, that's still CB. And I hope that sidewalk is accurate. Just the streets, I don't think are that accurate, but that's super cool that they added sidewalks, and I'll check that out. But yeah, CV Brady, and I'm still a public member.
We also asked.
Oh, we were kind of calling you a committee.
It's too late for public.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, but before Eric and I disappear, Eric, this is the second Zoom. Different circles, so I need your contact because we have similar things in common, and I want to get a hold of you. So through Joni or not, or now, let's connect.
I'll hook you guys up through email. How's
awesome. That's perfect. Thank you.
I'm sending it now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
all
Eric.
Right.
Gerald, but real quick. Sean, can you send that definition separating out the vehicle to per person trip?
Yep, I can send through that piece of legislation. I just need to get my hands on it again.
Okay, yeah, that just in my head, that's relatively newer. Carol's right. We usually talk about stuff 5 years down the pipe, so trying to remember some of this becomes. If we were in person, Carol would have been at her desk with a giant 5-inch binder. You guys just you can't see it now, but that kind of history is so important. But so yeah, that would be great.
Yep, I'll send it through.
Awesome. Well, if we have nothing else, I just want to say thank you. It's great to see all of you virtually. I look forward to when we're able to meet in person and have our binders and our documents to share. But thank you. It's been a great meeting. I think it's been an informative meeting. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move to adjourn.
Carol
Eric
second.
moved to adjourn. Carol seconded. Any opposition? With that, seeing and hearing no opposition, everybody have a good evening. Be safe.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye,
you all.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Bye.